Hey there! So Microsoft just released a brand new exam, DP-700, Fabric Data Engineer. Great! But how does it compare to existing certificates like DP-203, Azure Data Engineer, or DP-600, Fabric Analytics Engineer? So what's the difference and where to take which exam? Well, that's the topic for today, so let's get started. Alright. So right now we've got three different exams that are kind of similar and they overlap, at least to some extent. So the exams that we have right now are as follows. So we've got DP-203, Data Engineering in Azure. We have DP-600, this Fabrics Analytics Engineer. And we've got a brand new one, so let me use a red color, DP-700 Fabric Data Engineer. As for now, this DP-700 is still in beta, so it's not officially released, but it will be quite soon. Alright, so what's the difference between these three? And a good way to start comparing those exams and those certificates is to take a look at the official announcement of this new exam. So let me open this, and all the links will be available in the video description. So here we've got this blog post by Mark Winters from Microsoft where he described this new certification. And the most important part is this diagram, this image, that shows various certificates, various credentials, both certifications and applied skills, split into those three areas, three skills. So on the left hand side, we've got skills for data scientists that are maybe not that interesting, at least for me. In the middle, we've got skills for data engineering, for data engineers. And on the right hand side, we've got skills needed by data analysts. And what we have here is as follows. So let's ignore those Microsoft applied skills for now and let's focus on Microsoft certifications, only those three ones. So the first one, DP-203, is positioned entirely within these skills for data engineering. And that is true, right? Because DP-203 is all about data engineering using Azure services. And I have a course on YouTube that covers this area, that prepares you to pass this exam. You will find a link somewhere here. Also, we've got the existing DP-600 exam, this Fabric Analytics Engineer Associate. But take a note that it is positioned in two areas. Part of it belongs to a data engineering part, and the other part is for data analytics. So here, if you want to take this exam, you would have to know two different set of skills, which might be challenging, at least for the beginning. And the newest exam, this DP-700, is put again entirely within skills for data engineering. So that's the overall placement of those three exams. Alright, but this diagram is nice, but how to put this into our typical data solution? So let's draw it and let me try to mark areas that are covered and required by various exams. Alright, so let's jump to whiteboard and let me start drawing our typical BI solution. So as always, we have various data sources. They might be some CSV files, JSON files, XML files, different types of files that we've got to process. Apart from files, we very often have to load data from various databases in Azure, on premises, in different clouds. We might have to work with various APIs that expose data, for example, through web endpoints. we might have to work with various streams. So yes, streaming data is also found in our analytics solutions. We might have some IoT devices to which we would like to connect and from which we would like to grab the data. So overall, on the left hand side, the stuff that I just drew, these are our data sources. And every BI solution, every data solution starts with data sources. Now, what we have to do next, well, is to ingest this data and store it somewhere. And today, I will not use any specific service to mark those components. No, I will use those generic boxes. So this black box is our storage, whatever it is. Of course, depending on a solution, it can be implemented using different solution, different tool, different service. But for now, it is just a place where we store the data. So what we usually do in our solutions is that we have to load this data from those various sources into our storage area. And that's the first phase, quite important one. That's data ingestion. And again, I will not focus on how to do this. This is just a logical step in our data processing. Then, within our storage layer, we would probably have multiple zones, each of which differs based on the quality of data, number of transformations we applied, number of business rules, data formats, and so on. So what happens with our data is that, well, it moves from one layer to another as we proceed with various data transformations. And we can call this phase simply transform. And again, there are different ways we can achieve this, different tools, different services, but for now, let's keep it service agnostic. And finally, once we have our data transformed, it is pure and pristine, we've got beautiful facts and dimensions. If we go into dimensional modeling, what we want to do with this data is, well, usually we want to present it on some kind of reports or dashboards or KPIs. So on the right hand side, we've got some reports, maybe some line charts, bar charts, column charts, and so on. This is our reporting layer. So that's the yet another phase when we are serving the data to end users. And those are the typical phases or areas of our project. And now, great, but how does it apply to those three exams, where each of them focuses on which area? So the simplest way to check this is to go to study guide for each of those exams. And let's take a look at their first paragraph where they say what it is all about. So let's start with DP-203. And let's take a look at audience profile. So DP-203, Azure Data Engineering. As a candidate for this exam, you should have subject matter expertise in integrating, transforming, and consolidating data from various structured, unstructured, and streaming data systems into a suitable schema for building analytics solutions. Alright, that's one thing. Then if we go deeper, you will see what kind of languages you are expected to know. So it is SQL, Python, and Scala. Alright, and when it comes to services that you have to know, those are those typical Azure data services. So we've got Azure Data Factory, Synapse Analytics, Stream Analytics, and even hubs for streaming data. And for storage, we've got Data Lake and Databricks for data transformations. So this is what DP-203 is all about. So if we were to mark the area that is covered by DP-203, Well, I would do this as follows. So basically this orange rectangle is a scope of DP-203 exam. So let me write it down. So let me move those, and this is DP-203. That's the scope, Azure Data Engineering. And what is important for DP-203 is that it uses Azure services to achieve those areas, so data ingestion and transformations. We don't care about the presentation layer. You don't care about Power BI, about this DAX language. No, only the early phases of data processing. And what they also mentioned in the documentation is that to pass this exam, you should be familiar with SQL, Python and Scala. Python and Scala. So this is DP-203. Alright, so let's take a look at DP-600. Let's do the same. So DP-600 is the existing exam, but take note that it was updated today, its scope changed. So please make sure to visit this site to read the current objectives. So again, audience, DP-600, this is this Fabric Analytics Engineer certificate. As a candidate for this exam, you should have subject matter expertise in designing, creating and managing analytical assets such as semantic models, data warehouses or lakehouses. When it comes to languages you should know, it is SQL, again, we've got KQL to handle streaming data, and we've got DAX for Power BI. Alright, so if we were to mark this DP-600 on our diagram, it would be as follows. So before the change, I would say, before the change that was introduced today, I would say it is like as follows. Oh come on, let me change the color to pink. Alright, it would be, well, this. So this is DP-600. DP-600, which is Fabric Analytics Engineer. But as you saw in this study guide, what they did was to include the streaming part into it. So right now it contains basically everything, and it matches this diagram from announcement from the blog that, well, DP-600 sits between data engineering, the early stages, and data analytics, which is reporting and serving the data to end users. But the key difference between this exam and DP-203 is that it focuses on Fabric only. So forget about Azure Data Factory, about Azure Synapse Analytics. No, it will do everything using a single service, Fabric. When it comes to languages, we've got SQL again, we've got KQL for the streaming part, and the DAX for Power BI. And please note that we no longer have Python or PySpark that was used heavily here in the transform phase. No, it has been moved to a different exam. But still DP-600, it takes all the skills, not as deep as DP-203, but you are required to know quite a lot, a full landscape of the whole solution, which might be challenging. And we've got the newest kit on the block, DP-700, Data Engineering in Fabric. So again, what's the audience? So, as a candidate for this exam, you should have subject matter expertise with data loading patterns, data architectures, and orchestration processes. And you've got some responsibilities, alright. And when it comes to languages, you should know we've got SQL, we've got PySpark, and KQL. Alright, so let's mark it on our diagram. And basically, it's the same when it comes to the scope. It's the same as DP-203, because both of those exams are about data engineering. So DP-700 is pretty much similar to DP-203 when it comes to area in our data lifecycle flow. Of course, we'll use different services because DP-203 focuses on Azure services, while DP-700 it uses Fabric only. So you would do this ingestion and transformations and streaming handling, but using Fabric, only Fabric. So forget about those Azure services. And when it comes to languages, it is SQL, we've got PySpark, if I recall correctly, and KQL. So that's the difference. And by the way, please note that SQL is required everywhere, on every exam. Why? Because simply put, that's still the primary way to interact with data, read and write. So yes, as a person working with data, you should probably know SQL. So basically, that's how those three exams compare when it comes to the scope. Alright, so now we know this. So let's say I would like to start certificating myself in various areas. So how should I get started? Which exam to choose? When and why? So let me analyze 4 scenarios. Alright, so let's assume that this is me, and I've been doing this data engineering stuff in Azure already. So I can call myself Azure Data Engineer. So maybe I was using Azure Data Factory or Synapse Analytics to do some stuff into the data, transform it, but I just didn't get the certificate. So how should I get started? And well, in this case, the most obvious path is to start with the certification that covers the area that you already know. And since you've been working with Azure Data Engineering, you should go with DP-203, which is basically about, well, Azure. But you know this stuff, so it should be pretty easy for you to pass this. Once you have this exam, this certification, and you would like to continue your learning, your journey into Fabric, the next step you should take would be to go with DP-700, the new exam, which is again data engineering, but using Fabric. And basically those 2 exams, they focus on data engineering concepts, like so. And basically, I know they require different tools to achieve the same goal, to load the data or to transform it. But the theory is the same. In both cases, you have to know those logical steps, how to process with the data. You have to know how to clean the data, how to apply various rules, how to split your data in multiple layers, how to apply business rules, how to model your data, what is the fact and what is the dimension. So pretty much a lot of knowledge can be reused from DP-203 into DP-700. So this transition should be pretty easy for you. Of course, there is still a brand new environment that you have to learn, this Fabric stuff. but it should be pretty easy. At least I hope so. Now, once you have DP-700, you know Fabric and you would like still to learn more, then optionally you can go with DP-600, which is everything about Fabric, but it adds this quite difficult area of Power BI. But conceptually, those two are about Fabric. So that's the path for you if you are doing data engineering in Azure currently. Alright, but what if you are not doing this? So let's analyze a different scenario. So let's say this is you, the guy at the bottom, and you are actually a Power BI developer. You are creating reports using Power BI. So you are Power BI developer, and you would like to get certified. And well, because Power BI is a part of Fabric, then the most natural path would be to go with the exam that contains this Power BI part, which is DP-600, the older Fabric exam. And why this way? Simply put, Power BI is about 30% of the whole exam. And since you've been working with Power BI, it should be easy for you to pass this. So you would have less other stuff to learn. And you can verify this by going to DP-600 study guide, and you will see that yes, indeed, 25 to 30% of the whole exam scope is about semantic models, which is Power BI, simply put. So yes, so that's the way to go. Now, once you have this exam, DP-600, and you would like to learn more about Fabric, then the path is obvious. Go with DP-700, which is data engineering in Fabric. So again, those two are about Fabric. So here for 600, you would know some stuff about data engineering, not everything, but some. For DP-700, you would have to know more. So that's the path. This is your evolution. Alright, so let's say you passed those two exams. Should you go with DP-203 next? And well, it depends. If you are not doing any data engineering in Azure, not in Fabric but in Azure, then probably there is no point of doing this. But if you do, then optionally go with DP-203 just to certify in that area. Alright, so that was the second case. Let's analyze a different scenario. So again, this is you, and you don't know data engineering, you are not a Power BI developer, but you just want to learn Fabric. So I want to learn Fabric. So what to do? And again, choose the exam that is the easiest for you as an entry point. And of course, it depends on what you already know. My recommendation would be to start with the newest exam, DP-700, which is about data engineering in Fabric. And why this one and not 600? Because it doesn't contain Power BI. And Power BI is a big part just to learn and master. And maybe at the beginning, you would like to avoid this. And once you know this data engineering in Fabric, you might want to go with the Power BI part, which would be DP-600. Alright, and the last scenario is that, well, I just want to learn data engineering. So what to do? So I want to learn data engineering. And again, here it depends. Because we've got data engineering in Azure and in Fabric. So choose the path that aligns with what you are planning to do or what you will be required to do. If you will be doing data engineering in Azure, which is still a pretty common thing, then go with DP-203. So for Azure. But if you know that, no, I don't want to go with those Azure data services, I want to go with Fabric, then obviously try to pass DP-700 because this is for Fabric. So that's the switch. So choose the exam that matches your career, your future. And now you might start asking questions about DP-203. So is this exam going to be replaced by DP-700? Should we bother learning and passing this stuff? And in my opinion is that yes, it is worth it. And just because Fabric has been released, it doesn't mean that those data solutions will disappear. No, they will be still there. They will have to be maintained. They will have to be updated and extended with new functionalities. Just because Fabric is this new shiny toy, it doesn't mean that that business will pay a lot of money just to rewrite all your solutions into Fabric. So, in my opinion, DP-203 is still worth learning. So that's my way of thinking about this. All right, so that's it for today. So to summarize, we've got those three exams: DP-203, DP-600, and DP-700. When the 700 is the newest one. Both of them are about data engineering. One uses Azure services, the other one uses Fabric only. But when it comes to set of skills or set of areas that are covered by them, they are pretty similar. They use different tools, but logically they are similar. So it's up to you to decide which one you want to pass, which one looks more interesting to you. And that's it for today. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Take care.